Okay, so maybe we do have a quorum. But I don't want to, let's wait till the end and hopefully we get Lorna, Dan and Lois on, but so let's skip the elections at this point. And let Nico isn't on either. I was hoping we could get a little bit of feedback from him on this Inspire Poem Night. But let's talk a little bit more about that. Judy, you had some good recommendations the last time, and one thought I had, I don't know if you all see that group, the Room to Write. Um, Sometimes, they're writers, poets. I'm just brainstorming as to whether engaging them in any way might be helpful with this. If we were going to do a poem night, or I think one of the last things we spoke about was doing maybe an outdoor event for the young folks to, and maybe that makes more sense because there'd be some physical activity to it. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
The only thing about an outdoor event is then it becomes very weather dependent.
Yeah.
And I've seen those not go well. Do you have a contact for the Room to Write?
I don't personally know anybody, but I think that they have a website,
I know
or,
the woman, she's my neighbor, Colleen. I'm
oh, there you
pretty
go.
sure that's her, Colleen Getty. Let me double check that and I will be able to forge a connection because I can talk to her about it. Sorry to interrupt, Maria, just before you
No,
got too
no,
far.
that's,
Okay.
that's a good idea, Paul. Okay,
I would like to suggest that the first event be right at Inspire because you said that there's a little bit of space in there. Is there
there,
a
there is a little bit of space. The only concern that I foresee is, there's a cost there, right? Because if we're gonna have Inspire staff, then we have to pay them. And I don't know whether they can do it gratis. My guess is that that we're gonna need to pay them for the use of the space. And then, are we going to serve items? Or, have people purchase their own items? The commission has money, so, it's
I think
not
that would
gonna
be
be
a great
thousands of
use of,
dollars,
right,
so.
I think that'd
So
be a great use
I'd
of
like
commission
to
money.
suggest that maybe with the commission funds, assuming that it's affordable to the commission, maybe the space could be rented and the staff paid for it doesn't have to be a long event, just a short event. And then anybody who attends would just purchase whatever they wanted to purchase. And then I like the idea of the Room to Write. If Paul has a contact, that would be a nice addition.
Yeah, I'm thinking because then they could facilitate it, right? They would be better apt than I think we are to facilitate whatever the discussion is that, Nico's thinking about. If it sounded like he wanted the opportunity for those who are neurodiverse to be able to express themselves, their concerns, frustrations, anxieties. And I'm just wondering if someone like the Room to Write would just be able to facilitate that better than we could.
That's a great idea. And then Marie, do you have any idea what the cost factor might be, a ballpark figure?
I don't think that they would require us to pay for the space. I think the only cost would be for for the staff to be there, but I will investigate that. I mean, the Boys and Girls Club was that, and there may be no cost for all I know. They were very on board with this when I first brought it up. but we just need to be prepared. But I will take the action to speak with them, about a ballpark cost, if there is gonna be one, and then, Lois and Dan can provide the update on what we have for, funds, and it's significant enough where, and this isn't gonna be a significant cost that, that's something I think we could cover if we needed to.
I think Dan is on now.
I'm on mute.
Okay, great.
We did have a meeting there for the parade committee about a month ago, and it's approximately $35 an hour.
Oh,
for one
okay,
statement. And it's basically take out what you bring in as far as trash.
So Dan, tell us a little bit about how that worked. Did you folks have any kind of refreshments while you were there?
No, because it was just a working meeting,
Okay,
and it was a little bit loud in there with people talking.
how many of you were in there, would you say?
I think it was about 12 or 15.
Okay,
They have that community table, I think that holds 8. Then we had some people in the little 2 shelf tables, and then up by the window.
up by the window, right? And then and then there is the bench along the side of the counter, which, if somebody was facilitating and kind of stood in the middle or behind the counter and kind of projected their voice, we, potentially more folks could be accommodated, so. Okay, so let's leave it at Paul, if you would, connect with your neighbor and see if someone would be interested in that, and we're certainly happy to meet
Sure.
at any time to kind of brainstorm, even if it's a one-on-one, to just try to give them an idea of what we're looking for and let them guide us a little bit. And I
Yep.
think that we had, at the last meeting, I had written down in my calendar, we had a tentative date on a Sunday, October 5th.
Yeah, I have that written down as well.
Yeah, I
Okay,
was going
so-
to mention that too. I think having the date when we're talking about these things, even if the date had to change, but I
Mhm.
think having the date is a very important piece of this puzzle.
Right, because it draws some guidelines to work towards, right? We're not gonna let this go on forever. We're gonna work towards that date. And Inspire, I think, closes at 2 on Sunday, so it could be early, it could be an afternoon event. It wouldn't have to be an evening event if that made it easier.
So
like
I
the idea
know
of
at
holding
first we had
oh.
talked, so I'm looking at my notes. At first, we had talked about a game night, but it sounds like it's changed from that original concept.
Not necessarily. We can, if we think that game is better. I think when we talked game night, we had also mentioned outside. That's where I was going with the outdoors. But if we were to do a game night indoors, what do you think that would look like?
I like the idea of, if Paul could get in touch with the person that he has in mind, that might be a really good one. And then maybe we could follow it up with a game. It maybe even, I don't know if there's something, if you want to do it like at the Boys and Girls Club or something, but I know they have some space there as well. Maybe they're willing.
Yeah, and they have some a great setup for video games and things like that, I think, so.
I like the idea of having a small event at Inspire to start with. And then one of the things we can do if we gather people together, we can ask them, what would you like to do next?
Right.
or they can ask themselves, what do we want to do next? And we can just sit back and provide the space and help with the organization and, you know, have them self-guide it as much as possible.
Another good thing about the Inspire is it's centrally located. There's plenty of parking, especially on a Sunday.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And do you know, and we certainly need to talk to Nico about this because, you know, is he thinking of advertising it wider than Wakefield? You know, because I'm wondering if like the Mass group, MASS group, advertising it in their Northeast regional newsletter that they have.
But it
Might
sounds
be.
like it's a very small space.
It is a small space.
Right,
So
so-
I'm not sure that opening up more, at least initially, is what we're
Okay.
looking for, because if Dan said that it was crowded and noisy with 15 people, uh,
What's
maybe
the,
just start small.
is the capacity like 26 or 31 or something?
no, it's like 35 or 40.
Yeah.
Well, to seat, but I mean, when they had like the event with the grand opening, there were way more people than that
Yeah.
in there, but of course, people weren't,
Yeah,
you know,
mo-
they were moving through, they were coming and going. So one thing we would probably have to do because of the capacity is to have people register, set up something where people would register. Because I think we want to know how many people are coming, right? If there's only 3, you know, I mean, I guess regardless, we would probably move forward given the topic, but yeah. We would have to get a feel for how many people would be coming. Okay,
Good place for that Inspire aid.
Inspire Aid, right? So we'll tell them to get some new, that will definitely be on the menu by the time that happens in the fall. I'm sure that the menu will have all changed up at that point. Okay, so Lorna has joined. How are you? All right, so let's get to our elections now, seeing where everybody is here. Well, so I didn't receive any, I'm sorry, go
Before we
ahead.
do that, I just wanted to mention, I did attend the open meeting law that was through the state. And one of the things that I remember from the training is that anything like this, it's supposed to be a roll call vote, since we are doing this via Zoom.
Okay, thank you for that. And while we're on that topic, let me digress for a minute. I don't know if anybody saw the item, I think it was one day last week where they were covering the May 20 town council meeting. And I guess that town council meeting was a brainstorming session of what it is they want to do for their upcoming year. And one of the comments that was made was scaling back the public online access via Zoom. And a comment was made, and this is why I bring it up, Judy, that during the open meeting law training, it stated that not all town meetings need to be accessible via Zoom. What I recall in the training was that not all meetings have to have public participation. But I'm not sure I recall that not all meetings had to be accessible via Zoom. So I think we need to take an action to investigate that because if organizations like the town council are going to, you know, make a decision that if you want to participate, you have to physically go to where they're holding the meeting, how does that affect our constituents who are differently abled? Lorna, go, I see your hand
Okay,
up.
so I remember reading that also. And in part, I guess we are somewhat accessible via Zoom because we have closed caption. Now that doesn't, I don't know how that affects with somebody who has a limited vision. Lois would probably have to speak to that. However, if it was in person, then they need to be hiring an interpreter or a cot or some other way of open communication that's visual for a deaf person to be able to attend. I don't know if that happens. I mean, I was kind of like disappointed that there was no interpreter at the memorial service downtown. I have no idea whether it was posted. You have to ask for it for 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. But however, there has never been one since actually my husband did that memorial prior to it being made into a permanent one. He had refurbished the memorial back, had to have been in the 80s. And we did have an interpreter, but that's only because my instructor was a native signer, a native interpreter, who happened to be a Marine. But since then, there's never been even an interpreter to be able to invite people from other communities to be able to attend one of those ceremonies. So there's a lot that's not taken place in this town to make it accessible for everybody. Even though they say that, well, contact so-and-so for 2 weeks in advance for any accommodations that need to be made.
So in regard to that, that's probably a question for Bill as to whether that statement was made in any of the advertisements or not. Because I would think if it, I mean, that's all you can do. We can't expect them to hire an interpreter and then nobody need the service because now you've paid for it. But at least we can expect for that statement to be included in every event so that if people need that service and they ask for it, then we're committed to provide it.
It's also very difficult to get the services,
Well,
having,
right.
through the Mass Commission of for Deaf and Hard of Hearing, getting interpreters, because I have had many meetings where we needed interpreters and getting them, not an easy thing to do. They're limited. They're busy, very, very busy, and they can be pulled from something like we had, a statewide meeting for our programs, but they could be pulled because they had to go to court to interpret in court. And they can be pulled at the last minute and then you're left with no one and participants who are coming who needed an interpreter. It's not risky, but it's not incredibly reliable and not the fault at all of the interpreters. It's just the whole system needs a lot more to it. So I think that we have a CART reporter at the town meetings. Is that correct?
We have had
Town
CART
meetings,
reporters in the
yeah.
town meetings.
Yeah,
So they do CART. So that is one accommodation that they've made, which I think is really useful to lots and lots of people when it's in a large meeting space. If it's so big it gets moved to the high school gym, then having the CART reporters there is great because a lot of people are watching the screens. So I think,
yes, it's very helpful for people who, are on that borderline hard of hearing and doesn't have hearing aids, but
yes,
the background noise in places disrupts
exactly.
the ability to actually discriminate sound.
And that's a lot of people, especially those of us over
Me,
the
one of
age of 60.
Yeah.
So, but I think that we definitely should investigate that statement In the information that I sent out in the meeting minutes from the
Yes.
last meeting, I put some website information in there from the Mass Office on Disability, including their website has a, if you have any questions about this, you can call, totally not remembering the person's name, and then there is a phone number. So let's, Marie, do you remember what newspaper it was in? What day?
Yeah, it was the item. I have it right here. It was Thursday, May 29th.
Okay. I may still have that newspaper. I will check that. Do you want me to call that phone number and ask that person at Mass Office on
Yes, yeah,
Disability?
I would, if you don't, if you have the time to do that,
Yeah.
that would be great. I would like,
I'm very curious.
right, I would like a reading on, whether that is an option. I suppose it can be, right? But, can they just stop Zoom altogether? Do they have an
Mhm.
option of it being hybrid? I mean, what, and, yeah, I
don't know.
wouldn't want it to be every meeting if they need to alternate in person and not, maybe that's the compromise, but yeah, I'd just like to know if that's a true statement and that they do have that option, and then why would they do that? I know another a comment that was made in that article was that the public participation is getting out of hand. I don't know exactly what that means or what they meant by that. But I do recall reading when town council did his presentation on the meeting laws, he did say that having public participation was not mandatory, that was optional. No. Does anyone else have anything more on this topic? Okay, if not, let's go back and now do the elections. So nobody raised their hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and nominate.
I sent you a message that I'd be
Oh,
willing to do.
Janice, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yes, you did, and I did see that. And so I would like to nominate Lorna as the vice chair again, or chair, whatever she prefers, and Lois as treasurer, and Janice as secretary. And so can I have someone, so I'm making a motion is what I'm doing.
I'll
Dan,
second.
go ahead. And Dan is seconding the motion. Okay, and so
Before they
now
Powder too much.
we have to do a roll call. So Judy,
Yes, I,
and Charles,
Eyes all the way around.
okay, Janice,
Sounds good to me. Did you also say include yourself in that, Marie?
I did not include myself.
Are you thinking about including yourself?
Well, I think someone else should do that nomination if
Okay,
that's
got
what
it.
you.
All right.
So
So
let's,
yes to what has been
I would
stated so
like
far.
to nominate Marie and Lorna to continue as co-chairs if they are both agreeable to that.
I would like to
Okay, so-
second that.
Second,
we need,
yep.
okay, so we're gonna have to revise the first motion, right? Now we've got a second motion. All right, so let's start over again. So are you good with this, Janice, so far?
Yes.
Okay, so Judy,
Yes, I,
okay, Charles,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
Lorna,
yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Lois,
Yes.
and Dan.
Yes, would I have a vote to the cat?
And I'm a yes as well, so unanimous that we basically stay the offices as we have been.
The cat likes
Okay.
Marie's voice. When
I
she
know,
hears Marie, she comes
I'm
running
missing
over.
my cats, so I'll offer to babysit till we get new ones. So I noticed that Nico joined. Thank you, Nico. Can I?
I
And so
apologize for being late. I
that's
slept.
okay. We had, because I was waiting for other people to join, not just you, I skipped over the election as the first item and moved on to the Inspire poem. So we had a conversation about that, but now that you're here, let's circle back so that we can tell you what we discussed and then you can give us your thoughts. So at our last meeting, when you were present, we talked, or maybe you weren't present at that last meeting where we had this conversation, trying to zone in on what this event should look like. Should it be outside? But we concluded that, that's always weather dependent, so that doesn't always work out.
I
You,
think we agreed around October as well, correct?
yes, we had a date on the calendar of a tentative date of October 5th, which is a Sunday.
Yeah.
I brought up today that if you were still focused on doing the poem writing, or
I still think that could be a thing in the future, but right now I think the game night is gonna work more than
you would
anything.
prefer a game night, okay? Because we were gonna reach out to that organization in town, A Room to Write, which are writers and poets, and try to get someone to facilitate a poem night. But if you if you think the
If we
focus is,
want, if we want to do it, that's fine. But I just think that it would be a lot more of a hit within the youth of the community, like from the youth council perspective, to have like games or something.
okay, so when we talked, we did talk about games, and we thought maybe something over at the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah,
Because,
civic center, etc.
right, because I know they have video games. I don't know if we want to do video games because maybe that's not as social as doing, I don't know, what are some of the games you would think you have in mind?
I
What do
was
you,
thinking like cornhole, but
yeah,
thinking of it from a retrospective for people with like arm issues. But cornhole, some just other lawn games
okay,
that
all right.
doesn't require you to put a whole lot of force into it. Bocce, stuff like that.
Okay, so in the Mass Down Syndrome Congress will be, they'll be hosting their event at the lake the following weekend, but they have a ton of those lawn games. I might be able to borrow some of those. But we could also put the word out for for people that have certain games to let us borrow them for the night. So we'll figure that out.
And
I
this,
All right.
think the Boys Club might have sets like that. I know for a fact they probably have cornhole.
Is this something in that gym in the civic center that maybe some of these things could be done?
That would probably be the best bet, right? That would probably be the best bet to bring it all up there
you
because
gotta
it's
be
just a really big space.
scheduling at the drill hall.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking, was having it related to the Boys and Girls Club a little, but more than anything, it should be in the Civic Center because that's just a huge space with a lot of room.
It just they schedule so much of that pickleball in there. I
Mm.
see the lights on till 11:30 at night, and they're usually backed up every day.
So Dan
Yeah.
McGrath, Dan, is that who it is that we would reach out to?
Yeah.
I'll reach out to him. I'll send him an email after this meeting and see. And so let's talk a little bit more. Do we want to have Inspire catering anything, or we just want to skip that and just bring snacks?
I feel
And
like it isn't a bad idea to have Inspire have like a little catering booth. Or do they do like pastries at all, stuff like that, croissants?
Yeah, exactly. Muffins, croissants, I'm trying to think of what they had at Steve Mayo's event the other day. Chocolate chip cookies, muffins, croissants, those are the things they had there. And they had
I
coffee, but, um,
I think
obviously we could
that
do,
would do exactly what we.
I don't know that you guys would want coffee. We could maybe skip the beverages and just do bottled water or, slush. They have a slush cart. Maybe we could,
The slush would work great.
bring the slush cart
That's a
down.
great idea, Marie.
And if for some reason they can't do it, the other alternative is we can just buy snacks and water. And I mean, I don't think that certainly is not gonna be
Yeah.
a roadblock.
A ballpark figure, how many people you think it draw?
Mm, if the youth council is able to get the word out, I would assume that like 25 kids from the high school, maybe something like that. It depends
Yeah.
on how willing people are to go.
And
I
Nico,
think
who would you be advertising this to? The whole student body or just a certain group of individuals? Who do you envision
Oh
you would
no, the
want?
whole student body, just so the whole student body, so that people can just be able to meet other people who might be different from them and learn
Okay,
that these people are similar.
I'm just saying,
So,
some of these new pizza that have opened up, liable to donate pizza.
oh, yeah, that's, yeah,
Yeah, it's good advertisement for them, and it's not gonna be that much pizza.
yeah, I can always ask the youth council if we could put out a survey, an interest survey, like through the high school or on our Instagram page to just ask like, hey, are you interested in doing this in the future? And like just see what the opinion is.
okay. Do you wanna, would you wanna write up something?
Yeah,
That,
just a quick survey for interest.
and how would you advertise it? What would you be, how would you describe the event?
Like a little get together. Like, do you want to meet people with disabilities? Do you want to learn more? Like, do you want to just play games for a day? Stuff like that. Like, join us for a fun night on October 5th.
And what time are you thinking?
What time would you guys say? Because that's what I'm trying to think about.
And so Marie, did you say that you have a contact over there? You might want to ask them what might be available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It might be easier to do an afternoon, the Sunday afternoon, rather than an evening where people would have to maybe struggle for transportation. I don't know.
I don't know, Nico, what do you think the kids would
I
prefer?
I think a Sunday afternoon might work pretty decent. Like if we do like around 4 or 5.
And how long do you envision the event would go for? A couple of
I
hours?
apologize. You broke. Oh, how long it would go for?
Right.
Mm, like 8 or 9,
So
maybe.
4 hours?
I would
That's
like
a
to,
long time.
I would
Yeah,
like
never
to
mind.
make a suggestion that the event is about 2 hours in length.
That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking
Um,
so we
too.
can end it around 6. That would actually
So
be
like four
infinitely
to
better.
six or
Yeah,
something around that time. Okay. Okay, so that helps narrow it down a little bit, I think. Does anybody
and I
else?
will
Go ahead.
talk with our the person who runs our social media and outreach stuff and see if we can post a little survey and just for the town
So,
to look at.
Nico, how do you feel about, rather than a survey, to just do a save the date, Sunday, October 5th, afternoon event? You know, more information forthcoming.
More information to be put.
Because as soon as you start doing surveys, you know, you already have something in mind that we're going to be planning toward. So maybe do some surveys for future events, but for this one, it sounds like we've got an actual plan that we need to start putting in play. So I would suggest that you do a save the date. We need to get, you know that that date will be available and the timing that you're thinking about will be available. But I would say the 4 to 6, 3 to 5, you know, on that date would be good.
Yeah, I'll bring that up at our next meeting, which should be late June.
And then
And-
if you want to ask people what they're interested in, maybe have them suggest a game and say, you know, for example, we'll have cornhole, we'll have, you know,
Games and put like game suggestions are welcome.
Right,
exactly.
so refer to it as a game night, so we set that. And then, yeah, if people have suggestions for games, that would be great. So I will connect with Dan McGrath this week, Nico, and then I'll confirm the date and the time, and then you can go from there with the council, okay?
Would you also kind of advertise it as diverse abilities or?
I think diverse abilities might actually be a way better way to word that. Thank you. Like diverse abilities game night. Yeah, I think I like that. Thanks.
I'd like to also suggest, if we're going to do a game night, maybe our funds could do a couple of small prizes.
Oh, good idea.
Just very small, you know, like a couple of $5 things. It might be a nice addition to the event.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's a pretty good idea. Thank you. That's about what I have for today.
We could get gift certificates to Inspire Cafe.
Yeah,
Hmm.
or, yeah,
Right.
we
I
could
was thinking the
maybe
same.
go out to other businesses to see if they would donate
Mhm.
gift cards.
Ice cream.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Boba
know
tea.
Cravings might be willing to do that. Because we got Cravings to do a little carpooling fundraiser for a $25 gift card.
Yeah, they're always good. Businesses in town are very generous for things like that. Okay, so this is starting to come together.
Very happy about it. Thank you guys.
Marie, do you think that anybody will need to work on this over the summer? Or do you think that, because we just will have one meeting in September?
Mhm.
Yeah, let me talk to Dan McGrath and see what he says about the date and time, and then we can, I mean, we can communicate via email through the town website, I think, as far as if we each want to try to go off and get gift cards from different businesses, you know, just communicating that so we're not all running into the same, you know, place and asking them.
And Marie, you were going to ask about borrowing the games.
Yeah, I will see if MDSC will,
That
because
would
I
be
could,
great, because then you'd have what, you know, the games to play. And then, Paul, I think it would still be a good idea if you wanted to touch base with your contact.
Yep.
And then maybe that could be a follow-up event.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
yeah,
I-
because she may have a
personally
really good
hope-
suggestion.
I personally hope that we don't have a lot of computer type games because I think they all spend too much time on playing those games anyhow, and you don't get a lot of social interaction.
Well, right, and I
Um,
think if it's gonna be upstairs in the AmeriCal, there, we wouldn't have things like that. It would
Right.
be more lawn, lawn type games.
Yeah, which I think brings people closer together socially.
Right.
So we'll have to figure out things, maybe tables and chairs and, and exactly what we'd be doing for the snacks. I'd be happy to be involved in all of that moving forward.
Okay, thanks, Janice. I appreciate that. And Nico, who's a point of contact at the high school? Like who is the representative for the youth council?
To the high school directly?
Well, who is there a teacher that oversees the youth council?
We have a teacher advisor at the who's at the Galvin. But I think if we want to reach out to the high school on something, our best bet is to probably email Miss McLeod about it.
So the youth council, the advisor is out of the Galvin, not out of the high school.
Yes.
Okay, so that was my misunderstanding. And so who is he or she from the Galvin?
Kyle Collins.
I'm sorry, Kyle Collins?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, does the youth council reorganize like in September, or are they already organized?
Yeah, we run through the school year, so we reorganize in September after all the election results come in.
So it's not like you wouldn't be a member anymore. You would continue to be a member. It's just that the
No,
officers might change.
we have to reapply every year.
Oh, okay.
It's not a whole lot of competition, so normally you get the spot.
Okay. Anyone else have anything else? And so if we're good with that topic, I want to just give some updates from Bill Renault. In regard to the parking spots, handicap parking spots over at Nacella, he said they've ordered the signs and that they should be up in a few days. I asked him about the transition plan. He said they're working through it. They'll have their first, so he'll have something for us at our fall meeting. So that will be an agenda item. He said he'll also have an update for the elevator and the access at the ACE building. The design is still ongoing. And what is he saying? Oh, this must be, I also asked him about handicap parking spots for the upcoming festival by the lake this weekend, right? It's Saturday. And he said he would take care of that. So I just, as Dan had previously mentioned, make sure that A, there are plenty of spaces, and B, that they're, well marked so that people are aware. All right, so I think and then Lorna has on the agenda the Communitas Community Walk on June 21st from 10 to 1 at the lake. I checked the emails. We had no new emails come in, so for now we're clear, but I'll continue to check that over the break.
And then Janice had some minutes for us to vote.
Oh, thanks, Judy. Yes. Let's Yeah, I really missed everything tonight. Our mission statement, the pledge, I apologize. So yes, approval of the meeting minutes from our May 13th meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve those meetings.
Okay,
Second.
thanks. Thank you. And does anybody have anything else that they want to
Um,
communicate?
Dan, did you talk to Nancy Bertrand?
Yes, I did talk to her and really got nowhere because she said, we'd like to make up a nice sign to put in that spot there saying that there are, it was a cemetery. There are people still buried there, but in good taste. But that's something that the DPW or Bill would have to give us the okay on if we did anything there.
But there was no deep
She-
stress about
Yeah.
putting a walkway?
She said, well, it's hollowed ground, so.
Oh, the gazebo's there. People walk on it and sit on it all day long. So maybe we'll get objections.
I think a little more discussion with Bill Renault probably would.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right, and then we'll need to check with Conservation Commission on what's the setback requirement from the water. Maybe Friends of Lake Quantapowhat. But no, okay, so if she said it's hallowed ground, she wasn't saying we can't put a walkway there, or we,
Oh, I think she's basically saying it isn't up to her. It's up to, what DPW or town council
okay,
to get into it.
okay. Oh, that's a good point. All right,
And
thank you.
I know there's a lot of work that's going to be done on Lakeside Avenue by the sidewalk and the fencing there. So that may play into it too. That the Envision project that's coming up within like 2 years. I think that's part of it.
Right, so if something can be done, it's probably has to be done when they're doing all of that other work from a cost standpoint, but there may also be a lot of pushback because of the fact that it was a former cemetery and, well, is a current burial ground.
And that increase goes across the street where the Congo parking lot used to also be a cemetery, right back to the old burying grounds. It's a big area. I think she said there could be 100 bodies still buried there.
Is there a map? They must have a map, right? The town must have a map that,
I doubt-
that would, no? I'm just curious.
I know history, but I don't go back that far.
All right, well, that's something that we should then put on the agenda for our first meeting also with Bill to ask those questions. I think we had the conversation with him once, right? And it was, I think the way the conversation went was it's gonna be way too expensive.
But I think that if with the $50,000 that we may have to spend, and if we can look at priorities for that, would this be a priority?
Well, and that's another good point. I'm writing that down here. We should at our first meeting assess, have a list of all these items we've talked about and prioritize, because realistically, we can't do it all in one season. And so we should really focus on what it is that we want to prioritize for next year. So a couple of big items, and then obviously the smaller things are easier to check off the box, but this one, as we've already discussed, is going to be meetings with a lot of different boards, and that's just going to take time.
I have one question, and it's kind of like, what does the committee think? And going from Memorial Day to the services that they had Memorial Day, I saw several people in wheelchairs and several people came over from Brightview. I had one of my former teachers who was in a wheelchair that lives at Brightview, came across. But that crossing right at Crescent Street and Main Street, I used to call it the old Crystal Apartments, but it's condos now. But what would you think about if I went to traffic advisory and asked for a flasher there that would be handicap accessible, that would flash when people are crossing? And all the events on the common during the summer, that's where the people cross over mainly if they're
I
walking.
can't picture where that is. Where's Crescent Street?
You know, the tip of the upper common, just before you get to the Rockery, directly across the street, diagonally across. Nancy Bertram used to have an antique shop right on the corner on the opposite.
Right.
So it's
That's
kind of
right.
on the opposite side of the library?
Yeah,
Across the street.
In
But
between,
I think it's a great idea
because I
because I see a lot of foot traffic in that area.
because I see a lot of people in the morning and afternoon. I think they have a set time, but they come out of Brightview and, you know, they want in the summertime to take a little walk down, you sit on the benches in the upper common and in the afternoon also. But every major event on the common, that's where the people that are walking basically cross over. And it's kind of a busy little area, but I think those flashing rapid flashes would help. But I know they're very expensive to the tune of like $5,000 or $6,000. But I think that would be a great place for it.
and I
And
can't imagine that Bill couldn't,
we have a meeting the 13th of June.
The only kind that I have a problem with are the ones that are just constantly flashing. Because I think that the drivers don't even notice them after a while. It needs to be the kind that flash when there's actually somebody there.
When you
Yeah, they
push the
have the-
button.
well, you push a button, right?
Right.
You would
There's
push
Yeah.
a
solar
button.
powered usually, and they have a yellow light that blinks, you know,
Yeah.
off and on in each corner. So you definitely know when somebody's going across. And they are, the handicap accessible ones have the button closer down towards the ground.
No, I agree with you, Judy, because we have them on the campus where I go to college up at UMass Lowell, that they just flash whenever. And after a while, the drivers have just become accustomed to it and they don't even pay attention. They'll go right through them. But if we have the ones that are like button, I think that works much better. So they're not on unless it's there.
Well, do we want to vote on that to make it official before Dan, you know, so that when Dan goes before
I
Mhm.
think
the
if
traffic advisory, you know, we've come to an agreement on that?
they have one down in the junction, and that's for where the dog park is. And I think people crossing right there.
Yeah.
It is that yellow flashing, and
Yeah.
it's off and on flashing. You definitely know when people are walking across. And it's solar.
But like Judy said, it's not
Yeah.
constantly flashing. It
No,
only
no.
flashes when somebody hits
That's
the
why they call
button.
them rapid flashes, I think.
Yeah,
But you have to press the button to activate.
yeah,
I'd be happy to make a motion
please.
to to have Dan speak with the traffic advisory committee about putting a rapid flash light in the intersection of Main and you said Crystal?
Crescent,
Crescent, sorry, Crescent.
Yeah.
Main and Crescent.
and I'll second that.
We should bring it up and see what happens, Lieutenant Anderson.
Yes, bring it up and see what he says, and then we figure out how to, you know, depending on his response or cost, or I would think that Bill would have some funding for it, but again, if the town doesn't, something we would talk about it on our priority list. Lois, do you happen to have a hand, the current value of the funds that the commission has, or a round number?
Oh, hold on.
Okay,
About 12,376.
okay.
That's over a long period of time.
I know, it has been over a long period of time.
Believe it or not, years and years ago, the commission paid for the chirpers at North Ave and, not North Ave, but Water Street and Main Street, those chirpers. That's how far back it goes. Those have been there a long time.
So where is it? North Ave and,
Water
The
Street and
chirpers
oh,
at the,
Water and Center of Town,
But I call
okay,
it
yeah,
chirp It makes that chirping sound.
yes.
yeah, it doesn't always do it, but
Well, they probably need to be tweaked now or oiled or something.
Well, again, the Vision project is supposed to do all new lights from the junction.
yeah.
You know, everything comes down to money, and rapid flashes, like I said, $5,000 or $6,000, you know, when they paint, you know, the X's on the intersecting boardwalks that we have like on North Avenue. It's money, but where do you spend it? What's a life worth?
Yeah, safety is certainly a priority.
We haven't voted on the last,
We did not. We had
We had a motion,
we
yep,
had a second, and Marie, do you want to call
Didn't
for a vote?
sure. Charles? This is the motion for the rapid flashlights at Main and Crescent Street.
Yes, I vote in
Okay.
favor.
Dan,
Yes.
Lois,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Lorna,
yes,
Paul,
Yes.
and I would be yes.
I forgot Janice.
And we'll bring that up, but you know, we also have
Charles,
traffic engineers on that know sight distances, and you know, there might be something we're overlooking that they can't do it, but I'll bring it up anyway.
Janice, did I get everyone? Did we get everyone?
I think
I
so.
think so, yeah, I
And
think so.
I am also a yes.
Yes, okay.
And
Okay,
with the special election coming up within what, 3 weeks?
Yeah,
Everything,
June 24th.
so did we have any problems with the last election or?
We did. So I'm going to see if I can
Oh,
maybe
perfect.
make a checklist to bring to Betsy and whoever it is that physically sets up the site
Yeah.
to ask them to do what we asked them to do the previous election and turn the table around and see if there is a lower table on which they can put a voting, just the top of the voting booth on a
Mhm.
lower table for somebody who might be seated while they vote, or somebody of very short stature who wouldn't be able to reach the higher voting booths. And again, if you're going to go vote, I encourage you to use the machine. Just so, as Betsy told me that in all of her time, she'd only seen one person ever ask to use it. So I guess I was the second. So I figured it out. The person that came over with me had no idea how to use it, but it just, it worked. And it was pretty easy to use.
so
And
And actually,
Janice,
I'm sorry.
I was gonna
School will
say,
be out.
school will be out, yes.
Okay.
So do we ask the warden for our district to, if we can use it? I mean, how does that work? I mean, do they still hand you a paper ballot as you go to this?
I
Yes.
was just gonna
Yeah.
say to Janice,
get-
can you describe so that anybody who's watching this
you-
would know what to do?
Yes, you get the regular paper ballot. You go over and you put it in the machine, and this marks it for you on a big screen. Excuse me. It will have all the choices for whatever it is. I think we only just have this coming election should be a good trial, because there's just
Just the
one
one.
thing. There's just one vote, and then I didn't know it did this, and then it spits out your ballot, and you can check to make sure via the machine. You can go back to make sure that it did actually. You can recheck what you input before it prints out your ballot. Once it prints out your ballot, it's done. You've got to recheck it before you turn it in, and then you go over to the exit machine, where you put your ballot in the box that chews it up. No, it just eats it up and brings it in and counts your ballot. So so all of that is the same. It just is the mechanism for marking your ballot is different. So I did not know that till I used it. So
And
I'm
I
gonna
wonder if
Mhm.
there's some way that we should have Bill advertise that machine in the item, right? As they talk about the election, to publicly state that it's available for people's
Mhm.
use.
Mhm. I think it's a good idea, and then we're gonna work on the video, which I haven't gotten around to doing anything on, and Charles has volunteered to help out with that as well, but we can talk to, WCAT said they're willing to make a video with us. Betsy said, "Feel free." And, so, well, I think I'll try to get in and have a quick meeting, um, and she'll remind me of the name of the person. It's an IT person that works at town hall that actually oversees the machine itself because it's a piece of equipment.
Would you mind
So-
sending an email to Bill and copying me, and just because you haven't with you the exact name of the machine, what its purpose is, just so that he has all the information and can
Yep, yep.
submit it
They
to
had
whoever.
when I did the assessment, it's been about a year, when I did the full assessment of the voting place, both Betsy and Bill got copies of what came out of that. So they got, Betsy got a physical copy of the form, before I even started doing it when she was there that day. So I handed her a blank copy and said, "This is what I'm using." And then I shared the results with both of them. But that's probably about a year ago. So I was a little bit surprised. And then it was, it wasn't a national election, so there were not ballots that were taped all over the place as they were for the presidential election. I was surprised that there were none, and there are supposed to be the physical ballot should be posted as well and at a certain height. So we'll go over it's not a lot of things that need to happen, because the parking is fine and the entry into the building is great. The push plate works, the doors open up. It's a smooth surface going all the way down. The doors are propped open to the gym, so the access into the voting place, even though we had a complaint from one person who wants to park next to the building. That's a fire lane, so nobody can park next to the building. But other than that, the actual getting into the voting place is great. And in that building, it's fortunate that we consolidated everything into one place because the other buildings probably didn't all meet the requirements. I can tell you mine did not. So they're just little tweaks. It's not anything big, but with the little, it would be nice to be able to check off all those boxes and say we did all of those things and make that a habit when people are going, setting up the voting place.
Plus, I think
So,
Right.
Calvin has an emergency generator just in case the power ever went out, which some of
Do
the
they-
other didn't.
do they have one?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So once this video is made, will that be put onto the website so that people could find it there, or?
I think so. I don't really know. Maybe Charles knows more about that than I do. I know that the video will be made by WCAT. Maybe they'll put it on their channel as well. I don't know if can people access WCAT videos
I think they
On
can.
YouTube, yeah, on
You-
YouTube.
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
YouTube?
YouTube and on the
Yeah,
site, I think.
too.
Yeah.
Hmm,
Yeah.
that I
Close.
did not know. I've never done it.
I know WCAT for the next month, this month of June, they're extremely busy.
Mhm.
So many things going on.
Right, with graduation and yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, we won't get this done, the video, before the election. There's no question that that's not going to happen, but we can, address the issue of setting the machine up correctly within in the building, and posting the ballots and making sure there's nothing in the hallway that would be in the way of somebody who uses a cane and is tapping the cane and then could run into some. There were a few things that were just hanging out in the hallway that could have been an obstacle. They were either too high or too low for somebody who was using a cane for visual support. But yeah, but that wasn't the case. There was nothing in the hallway. So I just, I think that that's just a matter of coincidence that there just happened not to be anything in the hallway. I'm not sure anybody did anything about it. But if I saw something in the hallway the next time that was in the way, I would physically move it myself to another location so that it wouldn't be in the way. But all right, so we'll figure this out. We're going to make it be lovely, and then have the how to use the machine. As I said, for people that get anxious about circling those little circles on that ballot, and some people do for a wide range of reasons. I think I check mine like 17 times when I do it. My vision's not what it used to be. This is easily viewed. For me, it was easily viewed. It won't be easily viewed for everybody, but I was able to see it very well. All right. So yes, Marie, the answer to your question, I will CC Bill and you on
Okay.
anything that I do.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, just so that he can put it in the paper or however he advertises that, and he
Mhm.
just has everything in front of him and doesn't have to search for an email, a prior email or anything like that.
Great.
The easier we make it, the more assured we are that it's going to get in for those that need it. Okay, well, I think we had a really great discussion tonight, a lot more than what I thought we were going to discuss. Does anyone have anything else before we end for this 2025 session? Well, if not, then it's 8:11. I'm going to officially adjourn the June 2nd meeting of the Commission on Disabilities. I hope you all have a wonderful summer. I hope we bump into one another at some of all the great events that Wakefield hosts here over the summer months. And let's just hope we have great weather.
Roll
What was that?
What's the date of the next meeting?
It is, I think Luana had written the 8th of September. Yes.
Yeah, because the 1st of
Mondays.
September is Monday and
It's
it's
Labor
a
Day.
holiday.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So 8,
Great.
Monday, September 8th. So we'll see you all then.
Lovely.
Did you make a motion to adjourn?
I did not. Please, would somebody
Motion to adjourn.
Motion
to
adjourn.
second?
I second it.
All right.
Roll call.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Do we need a roll call for that?
Judy,
Oh, I think-
Go ahead, Judy.
I have no idea, but I think it's
otherwise
for
we have to
the,
stay for the
I
rest of
think
the.
it's for the, major vote, but
Major votes. That's what I think too.
you
We're
can
good.
do it as you see fit.
We're good. I think we're good.
We can do a voice vote.
No, it's the
All
vote.
those in favor of
Oh.
adjourning?
Aye.
There.
The vote
Beautiful.
lose. Adjourn.
We're
The
good.
eye
We
of
have to
here
stay.
to have it.
I'll see you all at Inspire Cafe.